Welcome to a new episode of My History Podcast. My name is Alexander, and I have with me
Paul Mink.
Paul Meek, and he is a friend of a friend, and now we've talked together, and now we're friends. I'm in his wonderful, beautiful home. It's honestly, I wish I could give you a whole tour, but yeah. Thank you, Paul, for doing this, bringing a story of, actually, tell me your story.
How far do you want me to go back?
As far back as you want to go, talk about as much as you want, bring any story you want, specific or non-specific, it's all.
Okay. Well, come from a family of, yes.
I'll first say, I guess maybe, because since they don't know who you actually are currently, so
Okay.
before you go full deep into the story, let's, who are you today?
Um, uh, I am a microbiologist at Neogen Corporation. Um, Started there about 2.5 years ago. Before that, I was a science professor at LCC and Jackson College and Grand Rapids Community College, teaching anatomy, physiology, microbiology, that kind of thing, and taught at the Jackson Prison,
Mm-hmm.
public health, and I did that for 10 years. Way back before that, I was a chemist at Post Serial and medical student at MSU College of Human Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Had my own painting business after medical school. I thought, geez, I think I'd be happier back what I was doing as an undergrad painting houses than I am at doing internal medicine at that point. So kind of just been around and done quite a few things, but now I'm a microbiologist and happy with it. It's working out really well.
Nice.
Poverty motivated me to change professions
As it does for all of us.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing now. I grew up in Ann Arbor. Let's see, we moved there in '68, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and lived there till '90 when I came up here to go to medical school. Before that, we lived in Detroit for a while, and then it was Washington State, Pullman, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was the campus minister at Washington State University,
Okay.
and that was kind of a thing to talk about in the town. Was my dad coming there with his crew cut in a '56 Chevy convertible, hot pink, and a wife who was 8 months pregnant with me at the time. And I'm your campus minister. I'm going to be helping out folks. And my mom was the first president of Women for Peace there. And
what is Women for Peace?
So they were kind of protesting the strontium-90 tests in the desert, that kind of thing, and against the Vietnam War.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
my dad was part of the free speech movement, sending people to Selma and sending people down to Berkeley for the free speech movement that was taking place there as well. And they were both really kind of radical.
Yeah.
And
I don't think anybody disagreed with war around those.
Yeah, no, it really was something, because my mom was doing marches down the main streets there, and people were spitting on her, and they were saying to my dad, "Can you rein her in?" And he's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So that was kind of our background. They would go down. I remember us going to Walla Walla, Washington, and we had a bunch of college students with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was all of 6 or 7. And we were interviewing people that are being displaced because they were putting a freeway through the black section of town.
Yeah.
Like they do.
For infrastructure and for...
Yes. And so we were interviewing the people that were going to be displaced.
Yeah.
And it was part of a big, larger study that was being done about people that were being chosen to be displaced.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of kind of uproar about it.
Yeah.
My dad had a FBI file on him, thought he was a subversive, and they were going to have him removed from the Methodist Church, but he got such sterling reviews from
Right.
people that they said, "Oh, well, no, we can't lose him."
Yeah.
And he thought, well, I think I can help more people in social work than I can with the ministry just because of all of the politics that are involved in this. And so the whole family got in our VW microbus with Eugene McCarthy for President Daisy stickers all over it. And we came across the country to Michigan. My dad went to U of M to get his PhD in social work then. And first we moved to Detroit and then eventually ended up in Ann Arbor and met lots of people. It was really something at that time. I think officially, it was 68 when we moved into Ann Arbor. Before that, it was Detroit. So we were there. I think it was 66 is when we came over. And things were kind of hot in Detroit at that point.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure it was the riots right after the riots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the Rexall drugstore that was just down the street from us had gotten shot up, and thinking like, whoa, geez, this is something else. My folks became members of the Quaker Church in Ann Arbor, the Friends meeting, and so we got involved with them. There were anti-war marches that we went on as kids, with the whole family. We marched in New York and then at Washington, D.C. And it was, I thought it was really boring at the time, but I remember in New York, people were dropping 5-pound bags of flour, from the skyscrapers down on us, flour bombs, like it's flower power, I guess. But I remember seeing it just like blown out all over the street. And it's like, what is this all about? And said, people don't like us marching. I go, but we're for peace. Why would they, why would they not like that? And it was really something at the time.
Completely different when you see the riots that have happened in the past, 5 years and the response to it. So no one was throwing flour outside of their windows, but it is still interesting to see the contrast there. It was more physically contentious then, where now it's more verbally contentious, and the response is usually with police presence to handle the situation the way they see. Where back then it wasn't necessarily. It maybe was a mirror of both police and public presence.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. There was a Sheriff Harvey that was kind of in power in Washtenaw County at the time, and he was rounding people up with long hair and shaving their heads.
Oh.
That kind of thing.
Good old Okay. Wow.
It was really something. I remember at that time, and so that was something that we were going to do. It's like, oh well, if you're going to be against that, then I'm for it. I grew my hair out. I think it was like all of 4'11", had hair halfway down my back, and I was a Psychedelic Ranger for the Rainbow People's Party at the time, and so the idea behind that is that we would kind of like police the concerts and that kind of thing, so the actual police wouldn't have to be there.
And self-policing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were the Psychedelic Rangers, and I remember there was a free John Sinclair concert, and John Lennon was there with Yoko Ono, who was singing "Sisters, Sisters," and it was really bad. Oh, just horrible. People were booing and everything.
Oh no. And
then he did his song 10 for 2, which is what John Sinclair had was serving time for, was that he gave 2 joints to an undercover cop and got 10 years for it. And 2 joints. Yeah, it was really something. But it was a it was at Chrysler Arena. It was a great concert. Stevie Wonder was there. Let's see, Bobby Seale was
Okay,
there,
yeah.
and so I was doing security for the chairman, and be cool, man, be cool. Um, it's just kind of ludicrous that I was doing that, but it was really a turbulent time. It was like us and them. It was the establishment and people that were reasonable in
Yeah.
our minds, going on at the time, and there was a lot of drugs in Ann
Yeah.
Arbor at the
Yeah.
time, and I lost a lot of people that I knew to taking like DMA and STP and that kind of thing, and just like
Yeah.
they were wiped out. Um, I remember though that we were really politically active, and all of my friends were involved in that kind of thing as well. There was crater diggings that we did on the Diag, which is kind of like the central square at University of Michigan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
And we had figured, well, the Vietnamese get to see craters, all the time in their landscape, so we were going to dig 4 craters there. And even the mayor of Ann Arbor, Mayor Harris, was like for it,
Yeah.
sanctioning that, but people got hauled away, and their heads beat in with billy clubs and that kind of thing for doing that. It was pretty contentious,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
it was something that we believed in at the time, really strongly, that we were going to do this kind of thing to really show people. And University of Michigan and Berkeley and Harvard were places where this kind of like speaking out was something that was, these 3 universities, I think, were maybe the top 3. There may have been
Yeah.
1 or 2 other ones. Eventually, Kent State was that as well. But so there was a lot of active people, a lot of active voices. The Weathermen were there in Ann Arbor, and they tried to blow up the chemistry building at U of M. And I remember my mom and I watching this show called Making Sense of the 60s, and they were showing the Weathermen, and she goes, "Oh, I know him. He used to come over to the house." And I go, "Seriously, Mom? Really, these guys?" And she said, "Yeah. We got an argument because I was, telling you to, clean up after yourself, and he thought it was, well, that's just part of the establishment. You making them, try and conform." And she was saying, like, "No, you can make it fun. I mean, it can be okay." And I go, "Seriously, I can't believe this. You were part, like this close to them." Yeah.
Like within communication friends, like, yeah, come right over. Yeah, we'll make some food or whatever. Oh yes, this is my son. Oh, you're gonna blow up what? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they didn't really discuss that stuff then, but yeah, they were very much involved in that. I remember taking money over the Ambassador Bridge to Canada to give to the Red Cross for the North Vietnamese that were, being hurt in the war, just like South Vietnamese were being hurt in the war. But just to help with military aid, that kind of thing, and getting all kinds of flack about that. But it's the thing about Quakers is that we were nonviolent. We believed in nonviolence, and so we were trying to find ways to help end this, war that was going on. And then it turns out, in retrospect, looking at all of the stuff that was perpetuated to get us to go, Gulf of Tonkin and all of that, just we felt kind of vindicated afterward that, yeah, we really were on the right path with that. But yeah, it was the whole culture.
Yeah. The rise against the whole situation. That's
Yeah.
it's extreme to grow up in that. And so how has that shaped you today? I guess how has that made?
Well, there was always a cause. There was always something to believe in, always something to fight for, something to always put your, energy toward. And I think that has always made me feel like I'm not just going to go along to get along.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to be turning a blind eye to what's going on, that I stay active and I try and stay informed and that kind of thing. I know that the best way is for me to get on Facebook and go on a rant. No,
Yes.
I can't get on that anymore. I mean, ever since I think it was Obama's reelection, that I just like, I can't believe all the people and the hateful stuff that they're saying, and so I
Yeah.
had to just like get off of it. I mean, I had some friends that were out there. It's like, we'll have to find another way to talk, but
Yeah. This way will not be the way. 'Cause
yeah,
it's connected to too much of your idealisms that don't align or correlate to realism.
yeah, and with the Trump election
Oh
of
yes.
2016, I had tried going back on again, and it was even worse.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I just have to stay away from it. Social media, it's like people get very emboldened when it's just their handle that they're going by, and they
Hmm.
feel like they won't be identified, so they can say whatever
Yeah.
they want. And
The anonymity, the aspect that no one is going to show up at my door tomorrow asking me questions,
yeah,
or when I go to work tomorrow, I'll be safe. And for a lot of people, that was okay. And there's some people who were like, okay, you can't act like that because they were recorded, or, it was shared so many times where it became popular. Like, these are your real views? Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry, we can't have you work here because you've created an attention toward yourself that
mm-hmm.
when if we're connected to you, we can't we can't have that flack. So some people did get let go. I believe unrelated to specifically Trump and political, but there was a lady who refused an African American man to go inside this condo place. Right, it was where he lived, and she was questioning him of if he actually lived there, and he was like, "You're not the officers. You're not the police. I don't need to tell you whether I do or don't live here. I'm telling you now, since you're asking me, that I do live here." And she refused him to go in, and eventually officers were involved, and he proved his residency, and he was able to actually get in. And she, because she was recorded, you know, people were able to research her and find her face wherever, and her company got involved, and she was eventually let go because of the fact that we can't be connected with you and your ideals that you're now being recorded on. Now, if no one ever recorded her, if that was never recorded in the first place, and that situation only went to the fact that officers were involved, African American man can get inside his home, she would still have her job. Most likely, it's not gonna go further than that. But because of the old social media and recording age that we're in right now, as I'm saying this, it's it's telling where there's a nice kind of sense of accountability, but also it brings its own ugliness to it as well, in a sense where yes, it does allow people to say anything and everything they want, and people will listen. So I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off. Like
no,
I'm.
no, no. That's absolutely dovetails right into that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So as you were growing up, you had this, as you said, you don't want to get along just to get along. So you always, how did it work out? So when you were in college, right? Were you against your professors, here and there, or was it like you agreed? They showed you different things there, or did you have any contentious situations with like certain professors? Because I think
American government,
okay,
yeah, very definitely had a lot of discussions come up, and I should backtrack a little bit
okay,
that I was involved in political campaigns as well.
oh yeah, yeah,
So I had worked for John Anderson for president. He was the third party candidate. He
mm-hmm,
was a Republican who didn't believe in what the other Republicans were talking about. So
okay,
he was the one. This is when Reagan and Carter were
okay,
going together. And Anderson said, "Look, I don't believe in any of this stuff that you guys are talking about. This is what I believe in," and just said it right out. And everybody else
Yeah.
was like, "Wow, you just said it. I mean, we were
Yeah.
thinking it, and you just said it." And so I said, "Oh, that's somebody that I gotta get behind." And campaigned for Jesse Jackson.
Mhm.
And then after that, it wasn't until Obama, I
Mhm.
think, before I got active again. I just didn't find too many people that I felt strongly about.
Yeah.
But so then, when it came time to take American government, there was somebody that was talking some major shit. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're saying all of this. And then,
Yeah.
so I tried to bring a different point of view, but I was younger then, and I wasn't quite as eloquent in my ways of
Oh
trying
yeah.
to persuade.
To your defense, you were shown some of the more uglier side of things. Of we don't agree with you. We welcome the fact that you're protesting, but however, we don't want you protesting.
Yeah,
So I'm going to show you my Billy Club, and you're going to show yourself out the door.
yeah,
So
yeah.
in your defense, why would I try to be more eloquent and efficient in how I communicate with why when I've not shown the same amount of
We had in Ann Arbor, we had teach-ins, we had sit-ins. We remember the student activities building. We had a sit-in there, and then people started getting dragged out, and it's like, had the bouncing down the stairs and that kind of thing. I mean, it was bad. There was a lot of people that were just angry that we were there, and it's like, these are students, and we're
Mhm.
finding out what's going on,
Yeah.
with our country, and we just never questioned that kind of thing. And I remember it was right before the invasion of Iraq,
Hmm.
and I was working at somebody's house who was he was either a dentist or a doctor, and it was all the stuff that was on TV where they're filming the aircraft carriers and how
Yeah.
everything's ready to go and that. And I go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I will go with whatever the president says. They know more than I do. It's like, well, turns out, no. uh, but
my my recollection of Iraq War, my was the time. I don't know. I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, somewhere around that time. But I remember watching on TV, uh, then President Bush getting a shoe thrown at him, and I thought that's so weird. Why would they throw a shoe at him? And then you learn later that's like one of the most disrespectful things you can ever do is take something off your foot that touches the ground of which you go, whether it be a holy ground, unholy ground, just dirt and filth and whatnot, and you're taking that filth and you're saying you deserve filth, and I'm like, oh, that's bad.
that's excellent. I have not heard it that way, put that way before. That's really cool.
Yeah. So when they threw the and not just one shoe, like the second shoe too. It was like they weren't feeling everything that then President Bush was saying, and when we find out years later, and then some people still be contentious about what really happened and what didn't happen, but we find out years later that it wasn't necessarily weapons of mass destruction. It was controlling oil production and or means of influence within the Middle East so that America could have a better hand in receiving better goods of oil. So it's definitely nasty. It's definitely not great because there's blood. People actually did go and die for a cause that they believed in. Yes.
Yeah, on the word of somebody that was not, doing their due diligence on that. And people, yeah, lost their lives. And I don't know how many Iraqis lost their lives,
Yeah.
but as far as the Americans and the stop loss program, where people couldn't like do their tours and be done. No, we're going to keep it going there.
Yeah.
And keep the cost of it off the books and that kind of thing. And how we should, that is the last resort, is to go to war over something.
Yeah.
And that we need to do everything in our power to avoid that. And how it was like, no, we were quick to that. We were just fast to that. We, invaded a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. And how could we get that so wrong? Well, it's got to be the CIA. No, you chose to act on this stuff. And anyway, and I don't hate government, but I do get really, really tired of the same stuff over and over again. It's like, we've been here before, we've done this kind of thing before.
3, 4 times.
And it's like, how are we expecting different results with all of this stuff? I remember being in arguments with people saying like, oh, once we take Fallujah, then everything is going to be okay. Yeah. And it's like, okay, any time that we are an occupying force, you're going to lose. If there's like this rebel contingent that you're trying to round up, whether it's World War II, whether it's our Revolutionary War, it always is going to be the same way, that people are going to always fight back on that, and you just can't do it. And that's not how we see it. No, we're going to be the victors. No, that happened in World War II, and they were happy to see us, liberate.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that happen in other.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get too political with that.
No, it's fair, because in my own, passive historical readings and teachings, I really remember, or at least it's been talked about and raised up as the greatest point of America would be, we defeated the Nazis and we defended American rights throughout all the other courses of wars. And it's like, I'm not sure how Vietnam was a threat to America. I'm not sure how Korea was a threat to America. I'm not sure how the Nicaraguas were a threat to America. I could barely see, the other Middle Eastern conflicts, but it's even trying to understand that the different, divisions and, so-called not so-called, they are terrorist organizations who were able to influence America. Like they did, influence, they in the whole taking of control of the planes and 9/11 and so forth. Like, how much of that also is allowed to give an excuse, like Russia and Ukraine, where Russia's saying there's Nazis in Ukraine. Okay, there's Nazis everywhere. There's Nazis in America. Legally, they're okay, though. They can express their hateful right as long as they're peacefully expressing it, even if we don't agree with it, right? But Russia isn't attacking America.
Right.
Russia's attacking Ukraine, so it's kind of like, okay, you're finding excuses. So did we find an excuse? Did we not allow an excuse to, do such things? And then when we get to the point, I remember I think it was in high school when they caught Saddam Hussein, and I was driving, and my Cavalier had the radio on, and it was like, ladies and gentlemen, we got him, and then, the trial later happens on, and, was he died by firing or hanging? I don't remember, one of the two.
I thought it was firing squad, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
I may have made that up in my head.
Either or, he was executed for the crimes, he was charged with. And all of the radio stations, every so often, would, have some type of fanfare of celebratory. And I'm like, we did just kill him, man. Like, sure, probably was a terrible person. There's probably somebody out in the Middle East who's like, I personally knew him. He was a jerk. Okay, understandable. Do we need to praise his death like that? Do we need to, on radio stations every, other hour, put on like some Star Spangled Banner? Yes, we enacted freedom. We did our justice. Like, it was weird to me. Not because of who it was, but just the idea of like I'm somebody who's recognizing that we have a weird fascination with happily taking someone's life. Just a weird little close fascination with it. It's just I don't know. Call me weird, I guess. But
No, we're used to being the policeman to the world,
yeah,
and it's like if we don't like you, we're going to smoke you out, we're going to come and get you. And we did that an awful lot,
yeah,
you know. This in Iran, that was really something. We had a democratically elected president, and we ousted him. We had a coup, and we put in the Shah in his place. We did the same thing in Chile, the Chilean coup. That
mm-hmm.
was our CIA that did that. We just have a long history of trying to shape other countries so we can exploit them for their natural resources or
Yeah,
whatever. And it'd be lovely if we could learn,
yeah,
but there's always going to be somebody that says, like, no, we're entitled to this. It's
yeah,
manifest destiny or
yeah,
whatever for the world. Domino theory, if we let these communists, take over one country, they're going to take over all the other stuff. And then we prop up these people that are just ridiculous.
mm-hmm.
South Vietnam, it's like one after another because we couldn't find the right one that wasn't corrupt.
Yeah.
We'd take anybody. Um, Anyway, I don't know how we got into all of
No, that's
that.
fair. That's fine.
Geez, let's
I
talk
enjoy
about
it.
football or something.
No, that's totally fine because I like the more natural conversation into things where you can get a deep dive on someone else's understanding and psyche, and that's kind of what I do in this podcast. I allow
Okay,
that, so
cool.
it's totally fine. If the CIA starts knocking on my door, then I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey guys,
I know Paul, but
right,
I
yeah,
don't support everything he says.
right."
What did he say? Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I don't remember what he said. You can't prove it. No. But if you are listening to CIA, thank you. Like,
Yeah,
share, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell icon.
that's great.
Comment 5 stars on Apple. Just give me some good reviews. No, but it's so from the '70s to the '90s because I like this historical approach because I don't get an often time to talk to someone who because my age and who's around and my influence, but I don't get a chance to talk to somebody besides my own father about what transpired exactly from your point of view, your eyes, and how it relates to your day to day in Michigan here. Like how much of the influence of kind of the hippie movement to the non-hippie movement to the Black Panthers to no more Black Panthers, crack epidemic, non-crack epidemic, to the gun violence and so forth that permeated that are talking points for Fox News, right? How did that affect you growing up in Michigan? And before you say anything, ad break. So going back to what I was saying, how did I guess what I really want to know because of how there's one of these shows that got kind of prevalent in the last past year or two. It's called Snowfall, and it's about this African American kind of college graduate or dropout, and he comes back to his neighborhood, and he gets involved with cocaine smuggling and dealing, and then he gets involved with the CIA, who then they hire him in a sense to sell cocaine. The money generated then goes to him, he gives them more cocaine, but that money goes toward the Nicaraguan conflict that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So when that information came out in terms of what was happening with the CIA, how did that affect, like, what conversations were happening, I guess, around your time in Michigan? Or, yeah, you were in Michigan around that time, yeah. So how did that affect, was that like surprise, surprise, or
That they got caught, that was surprise. But
okay.
as far as knowing that they lied an awful lot about, um, arming the Contras,
Hmm.
it's like, how did they all of a sudden get all of this? All of this armament, that kind of thing. How are we involved, but supposedly not involved at all? And our
Okay.
history of doing stuff like that, to the point that they were selling drugs to Americans in order to
Hmm.
finance that. That was the
Yeah.
part that was just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is a type of thinking that is willing to eat its own young in order to keep it going. It is, how are we any different than these countries that we say, are
Hmm.
corrupt? We're the land of the free, but we still pull this kind of stuff and we take advantage of people that voted them into power,
Hmm.
by lying to them. Just amazing to me.
Hmm.
And how many people died because of crack cocaine?
Yeah.
How many people's lives were affected by all of this cocaine coming in? Um, they didn't sell it as crack cocaine, but as soon
Yeah.
as that started taking off
Yeah.
and the consumption went up, they were more than willing to supply it.
Hmm.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and it was, our government doing this kind of stuff. It's like, you guys are willing to do anything
Hmm.
just to keep this kind of ideology going. Yeah, no, Snowfall was great for that
Yeah.
respect.
Okay, so you've seen the show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't seen the final season, but yeah.
You're gonna enjoy it. I've watched it. I've was like, okay, this the show ended really in a really great way. I love the writing that they do with it.
Okay,
Um,
don't tell me.
of course, I won't say anything more. You will enjoy it.
Okay, cool.
But my first time, watching it, and then from doing it, different, diggings of my own, I was like, oh yeah, this was real. Like they were trying to hide this, and then they finally admitted it, years later, decade, or two later. Like, yeah, we did it, but like, there's no recourse of action. There's no type of we're sorry. Here's a blank check for the families affected by our doings. And it's you would think for someone to be so calculated and cold that they would keep a record enough to account or atone, but they're not trying to do the atoning part. So it's like, we're sorry. Take it or leave it.
What we couldn't get over was the fact that Reagan did not ever, admit to knowing about it. And
Yeah.
it's like, how could you not know about this? How could you not be involved? I mean, everything comes back to you,
Hmm.
and you were the one that was out there on the stump talking about how, we need to stop this from happening in our backyard,
Yeah.
in Central America. And I don't know. It just seemed like the timing was weird. He's got Alzheimer's at this point, and the astrologer is making decisions, in the White House, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
it was just like, we just were gonna let this go. You know, we're gonna not not get into this. And I guess it was kind of like after his departure from the
Hmm.
White House that, most of this really came out at that point, and we were busy, denying AIDS at that moment, so we couldn't
So
really talk
another,
about it, another
right.
denial. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
No, you're fine.
going off on the edge there, but
So it became like another type of thing to focus on. And I don't know, it seems from my understanding, it seems like it just became another thing and another thing, another thing. So let's push this other thing. And then the next thing is really important. Then that thing gets pushed away for the next thing
yeah,
of focus and condition of how do we solve? How do we heal? How do we move on? And so forth. And it seems, knowing that, it seems like it continually gets passed on as we'll forget about it and let time heal. And now we come to 2022, and there's a lot of like issues that COVID, in a sense, exposed or allowed to be exposed of people's thoughts, programs that were initiated, knowledge of, everything being put out. I mean, I guess in the last past, not just because of COVID, but in the last past, since Trayvon Martin was murdered, and his murderer was kind of basically let free, scot free. Since then, that was like 2013. Since then, it's been a let's push it aside and then we'll focus on something different. So it was Black Americans being killed by officers or random pedestrians, and then they're not being charged, and then COVID hits, and it's like it becomes even more expounding on in issues and so forth. But not to talk about that. So you said you got more involved in politics when it was Obama. What were some of the things you were, or I guess you were doing it then? Like, how does someone become more involved? I mean, after understanding you stopped being involved in politics before then for various good reasons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to fight for these people when they don't say things that I like to agree with, so I'm not going to support it. But then Obama comes around and you like some things. So what did you do to, I guess, to support?
Well, I was a voter registrar. Was getting out and helping people get
Mm-hmm.
registered to vote. Um, let's see. I worked for the 2000 census and the 2010 census as a census taker.
Oh yeah.
To try and help out with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. What are some of the other things that I don't remember all? Oh, working at the Democratic headquarters here in town,
Yeah.
here in
Right off
Lansing.
of is it Pine?
It,
Pine Walnut?
yeah, it was like that. It's right off of St. Joe, in between St. Joe and Hillsdale Road,
Yes.
and
Okay.
yeah, it's that old, really cool old house.
Yes.
But going there and helping out, stuffing flyers and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing,
Okay.
just volunteering where I could. Um, but yeah, he was like so cool. That's just like, oh, I really like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somebody who is eloquent, and after coming from the president, that was
Yes.
before him. And again, it's like we have these people that are in power that just trash our nation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just use up everything, all of the goodwill that we've got. I mean, right after 9/11, everybody, every country was sympathetic to
Yeah.
us. It's like, oh my gosh, we had so much goodwill sent our way.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, well, we're going to kick a little ass here. And, um, and then went over the top, started torturing people, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, we're justified in all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we lost all of it, from other countries. It's like, oh my God, why would you go this way? Well, because we let a couple of people, run the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was that same kind of thing again, where we had let these big, huge banks, consolidate, and then they were overextended, with the whole subprime mortgage
Yeah.
lending and that kind of thing. And people saying, well, I don't understand it, so I'm not gonna, try.
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
No,
you
you
really
should.
need to understand what's going on so you don't vote people into power that are going to perpetuate this kind of thing, which
Yeah.
has happened again since then.
Yeah.
That we have fewer banks now. They've consolidated that much more. We've got that with like meat packing. There's like four major companies now instead of many. So there's
Mm-hmm.
not competition. So they get to set the price for things.
Yeah.
Same thing with like, Amazon and Walmart that, we've
Yeah.
consolidated that much more. Same thing with big oil. It's gotten smaller. And so they're setting the prices for everything. And then people say, geez, this inflation is really something. What's Biden, doing about all of this? Gas prices weren't this high with Trump, and it's like people weren't driving then. There was a pandemic, no one was on the road, and supply and demand. We've got all kinds of supply because the demand was down, and so the prices come down.
Yeah.
And 70% of our economy was service based. Going to restaurants and that kind of thing. And as soon as the pandemic stopped all of that,
right,
people are going like, wow, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to start buying stuff. And, they're getting on Amazon and they're buying everything. Well, now there's all of this demands for goods, but people are not in the factories and they're not going at their optimum, production. So the costs start going up a bit because they can't keep up with the demand. And we still hadn't opened up restaurants then, and so people were still spending their money that way, and so the cost of goods is going up as a result of that. And for stuff that just really didn't need to, it's like, oh, come on, people are not pooping more than they ever would before. That nuts. So anyway, they're blaming all of that stuff on Biden, and that's not the case. Do you know that there's still a pandemic going on, right? And this is worldwide, and this is affecting everything, and we have just got this conspicuous consumption type of mentality here in this country that by the stuff that I purchase, that lets me know how well I'm doing by telling everybody else around me that this is how well I'm doing. And we just don't cut back on that kind of stuff. It's like do it more and more and more. And I got Instagram showing, how fly I am, this kind of thing. And people need to consume and consume and consume.
Yeah.
And then we're left with what we've got right now. And, if we don't cut back on allowing big corporations, which have had banner years. I mean, the gas companies have made money hand over fist. Amazon has made money hand over fist. Elon Musk has made money hand over fist.
Oh, yeah.
All of these guys are making just like tremendous amount of money while gouging us with all of this. Gas companies aren't dropping their prices. Oh, no, we don't have enough gas. That's what it is. Whatever. Yeah, that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And so that whole idea of, taxing these people that are making these obscene profits, while everybody else is hurting and having to foot the bill on this stuff, Congress is like going to stop it. We got Joe Manchin there that is, I don't know about Kristen Sinema. I have no words for her, but Manchin is just a Republican, that claims to be a Democrat that is just willing to allow all of this stuff to continue. And we had this opportunity to make real change, and he's like, no, I'm going to be the little king that is going to stop all of this stuff, and you can keep courting me. And I'm really rich. I got mine. You can get yours.
Yeah. When noticing, or were you able to notice a change through your eyes in America, going to more of this high consumption, highly politicized, more of that society? Did you notice that change earlier, or did you see something's gonna happen?
That happened in the 80s with Reagan.
Okay.
Yeah, Reagan absolutely did that. Closing all of the mental institutions, not paying for that. My dad, being in social work, said he is a cause of so many people dying right now because they got nowhere to go and they don't have the ability to take care of themselves. And society is gauged by how we take care of those who can't take care of themselves.
Right.
And we are just letting them out. So if you're a state that has a bottle deposit law, you're going to have an influx of people because they can, get a meal that way.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, it really it really started with the 1980s, and that's when stock market stuff was going up as well. Wall Street,
Yeah.
that kind of thing was taking place. And unfortunately, it didn't just end with him and Bush Sr. That Clinton went along with that whole Goldman Sachs, idea as well. And, at least we had a surplus in our budget, that we were able to bring stuff down, bring the deficit down with that. But that got cashed in for, with the next president as tax breaks for the uber rich. I don't know. I didn't get any money back on that tax break. Did you get any money back on that?
Sure I did.
No. Yeah. Sorry, don't make enough to do that. Or with the one in 2017, either that tax break. I'm sorry, I'm not a billionaire, so I didn't get any money back. At any rate.
Yeah. Yeah. So learning, there's going to be a lot of contentious historical things that I want to go more into and get your point of view on.
Okay.
But I want to know more about Paul himself. So I know we said you came from a family that supported basically your free speech, who raised you up to be, an upstanding gentleman, to be helpful and so forth. But okay, Paul, who I guess after you got to Michigan, you got to college, what happened after college? What was your, not political, or what, did you find a beautiful young lady? Did you get?
Yep, got married. I had a son and a daughter who now live out in Colorado, who are in their 30s now. And then
So you were born in 1990 at least.
85 and 87 for
Mhm.
those two. And then now I have a son from a different marriage who's just turned 13. And
Cool kid. I actually got to meet him.
yeah, Jack is awesome. But Corey and Chelsea are as well. They're doing really well.
Who's your favorite? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. They're all my favorites.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have them all together again for my mom's memorial is on Father's Day weekend. And
great.
so they're going to
Yeah.
be back for that. And it'll be neat to have everybody together again.
Yeah. No, that's nice. Awesome.
But let's see. So have been married more than once and not married since 2015.
Single and ready to mingle, as they say.
Thank you so much for putting that out there.
No. I am too, but no, that's great to hear that you have a beautiful family. You're able to. Did you also instill the same values into them? Free thinking, I should say.
Yeah. And my adult children and their mom very definitely have that same kind of thinking as well. I don't mean to speak for them too much, but maybe not quite as radical as I am.
Yeah.
Not that I'm radical, but
You had Billy
strong
Clubs,
thinking. Yeah. I mean,
So,
that kind of stuff was going on. But and Jack is that way as well, where he's like, oh geez, this is wrong, and I can't believe that this is taking place, and I want to make sure that it's exposed to all of these different lines of thinking and walk through it with him. That's especially because Jack being younger is
hard
on
topics.
social media, that kind of thing, YouTube, that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, what about all of this? And I'm like, let's talk about that. This is a teachable moment here. And so we really need to talk about this kind of stuff. But I'm surprised at how many people choose not to be aware. They just don't want to know about it. People saying like, so this is all about a Roe and go a Roe.
No, no.
Oh, you mean Roe versus Wade? As far as that
Mhm.
decision? Yeah, so there was a Roe, and that caused this problem. It's like, yeah, no, we really need to talk about what's going on, but it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
It's like this has been building for decades.
Yes. I
That
think
people.
Michigan for was it what 60, 50 since 1930 was the
Oh, that
rule.
one going
Yeah.
back. Oh yeah, 31.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's really going to be something that we can revert back to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what a lot of these southern states are already trying to do. They're trying to push that forward anyway. And people go, oh, well, we shouldn't have that kind of stuff, but we don't want big government. It's like we don't want socialism, but keep your hands off my Medicare,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Okay. And we don't want big government. We just want to shrink it down to the size it fits in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah. It's a lot of interesting. Do this, but make sure you do this with your hands tied, and but don't do it too well, because then I have an issue if you do it too well.
Yeah,
Your hands are not tied then, so it's quite interesting. I've done my own little research onto a lot of the programs that the Black Panthers were putting in the community. A lot of them have been adopted, even though they were thought of to be radical or socialist programs. A lot of them are now regular programs that communities and counties regularly fund year after year. And it's like, what did you not like about? Oh, you didn't like who was, pushing the. Okay,
yeah,
I got it. I get it. So it's interesting. I mean, at least yes, the programs are still there. Some of them, that's good. At least people are still getting the help that they can get. It's just a shame that
yeah. We couldn't, cite them as being
yeah,
the people that came up with that.
yeah, yes, exactly. Um, no, this is great. I don't have too much to ask you, I guess, or question because I feel like we're gonna agree on a lot of things here. And usually I'm like, oh, I want to know about this, but what could I ask for the audience? I guess. Is there a specific scenario in your life that was a teachable moment that you always go back to? That you're like, hmm, this moment here defined the next set of course of actions for me. I mean, there's going to be plenty of those moments. I think for myself, I have plenty of those moments
Mm-hmm.
of this changed my life this way, and then this changed my life another way. But what is, I guess, one of those moments for you that you're like, this changed my life this way? It doesn't have to be. I know it's like right off the cuff.
Yeah, there were a couple of deep things that are not appropriate to talk about here. Sorry about
Up to
that.
you.
Uh, but there were, I think, substance abuse was a big thing in the 70s. It
Mm-hmm.
was really something, especially in Ann Arbor, that was really prevalent. And in junior high school, I became, well affiliated with that,
Knowledgeable of, yeah.
hanging out with people that were older than me and had good drugs and getting involved in that
Mm-hmm.
and that stuck with me till I was in my late 30s,
Oh wow.
up until
Yeah.
2000. And then I got, well, it was 97. I got sober
Mm-hmm.
for 3 years and then went out for a month and kind of proved to myself that I was out to kill myself, when I'm using
Yeah.
like that. And then I've been sober ever since January 3rd of 2000. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Um, but that was a big deal,
Yeah.
coming back from that. It was like just having to do a whole new personality and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but having to learn how to do stuff um, without that addict in my head
Right.
saying like we could work on this, if it wasn't
Yeah.
using drugs, it was, trying to find a way that I could, trying to procure ahead of time, that
Right.
kind of thing. And um, a lot of times I was aware of it, and then other times I wasn't aware that I was doing that until, doing the steps in sobriety to
Hmm.
understand what was taking place. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I had very different stories that I would tell myself, and I needed the help of people that had been through it to say,
Hmm.
no, this is what you were doing. You were shooting a move here, and I was like, oh, really? Yeah. But I always thought I was like a decent guy. It's like, yeah, these are the things we tell ourselves, It's like there's some motivations behind a lot of this stuff. It's like, oh, okay. So that was a big deal. It was for me.
Hmm.
And then once I had my mind right, I could get involved in politics again. So
Okay. Okay.
late 80s and well, I guess from the 80s and early 90s, I really was too busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
As busy being a dad and also going to
Yeah.
school and then coming up for medical school and but it was there the whole time. I
Yeah.
mean, that was one of my longest relationships. That and smoking cigarettes, was
Hmm.
another one too back at that time. But stopped all of that at the same time because I knew I was going to be miserable anyway. I might as well quit everything. It's all drug seeking behavior to me. So,
Fair. Fair.
um, despite my sponsor saying, don't try and quit it all at once, it's like, no, I really got to get
Yeah.
through all of this. I got to stop because otherwise I'll be sneaking.
Yeah.
I was sneaking cigarettes in medical school. I'd come back into class and people would go like, damn, you smoke and you're going to be a doctor? It's like, yeah, don't tell anybody.